Kynes to do the roll call, please.
Tom DeGennaro,
Present.
Denise Batone. Here. John Mastriani.
Here.
And for the record, Attorney Francine Diosio is also present.
Go to item number 3, public portion. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak?
I'm Ethan Fry. I'm a reporter from the Valley Independent Sentinel.
Yes.
The agenda lists discussion on an FOI Act request, and I'm just wondering, since it's public information, if you could say who filed the request and which officer it related to. Thank you.
Yes, the individual that filed the request was Lorene Bolton, and it's for information regarding Chief Narowski.
Thank you.
Well, is there anyone else in the public that would like to speak? Okay. We're going to get to item 4. It's a Freedom of Information request. We're going to have a discussion and possible action. This is a result of a FOI request made by Lorraine Bolton. And this was made after our meeting the other night, after the meeting. So we held this special meeting today to get to this point. And at this particular time, while we're going to consider the Freedom of Information request as to Chief Narowski, one of the items, there's actually 3 items that were requested. And one is the complaint, related documents, and investigative report by Attorney Eric Brown. And at this time, I'd like to have Attorney Tedosio advise the Commission as to whether the Commission has to release that or there could be a claim of attorney-client privilege.
All right. To answer your question directly first, if the Commission chooses to utilize attorney-client privilege, it can withhold that document. The attorney-client privilege is a privilege that attaches to an individual or an entity that seeks advice from an attorney. If you could consider yourself walking into an attorney's office to discuss an item, you know that you expect that the discussion of that item will be confidential. And if that attorney provides you with written documentation with regard to that item, you would want that to be confidential also. So that attorney's hands are tied and mouth is sealed with regard to everything that you discussed or he advised, or she advised. It's the same concept with regard to a board. You have the same right as a board. But just as you as an individual can walk into the attorney's office and get advice and paperwork and then share it with the public, you have an opportunity to share it with the public if you choose. If you think it's too personal or you choose just not to release it, you have the right to release it. Now, you may be sitting there saying, okay, but I heard all this stuff about freedom of information and public records. Well, this issue has come up at the Freedom of Information Commission, and the Freedom of Information Commission has ruled twice that, in fact, the attorney-client privilege for a board does pertain if the board has gotten its information from an attorney. If, in fact, there had been, quite honestly, a private investigator doing this, then it would be disclosable under Freedom of Information. As a matter of fact, one of the leading cases about this actually had a private investigator doing the work, but he was doing the work for an attorney who had been retained by the Commission. And because of that, the Freedom of Information Commission ruled that it was protected by attorney-client privilege if the Commission decided to utilize attorney-client privilege.
Do you have any other precedents, case precedents?
Well, the cases I'm alluding to, you can find at the Freedom of Information Commission website or any online search engine that can get you this information, but they are cases that emanate from the town of Avon in July of the year 2011 involving the police chief in Avon. I have copies of them that I can give to you if you want them.
You have copies showing,
I have copies of the, I can make copies for the entire board if you want.
Would you like to take a look at that?
yeah, please.
Can you excuse me for a second? I'll go make copies. I don't have the copy. You can look at mine.
Oh, here.
All right?
I think I have a copy. I think.
Here, I'll pass mine down because they're stapled back to back.
I don't know if you want to look at it.
John?
So basically, you're saying that these cases with situations like this with other officers in other towns, the actual investigation is not released.
Right. What happened is there was some type of investigation regarding a chief in Avon, and I believe the union in Avon, as well as the local television station, excuse me, I'm sorry, as well as the local television station objected because, or I shouldn't say objected, but appealed to the Freedom of Information Commission because the police commission there withheld the report. As to the union, the FOI, Freedom of Information Commission, decided against the union, and as to the television company, they also decided against the request. And the bases of the commission deciding in favor of the commission was the attorney-client privilege. In the situation with the television company, there was a claim that to the extent that the commission had released some kind of public letter about the chief, that they had given up the attorney-client privilege. And the commission ruled that since there was an intent to keep it private and the paperwork that was released was just public, as a matter of fact type information, there was no relinquishment of the attorney-client privilege so that the commission could still claim it. So what I'm telling you is it's your option. You have a right to claim it. You don't have to claim it, but it seems like there's precedent for it.
So based on page 2 of 4, item 23, I think that says it. Further concluded in the general statute reference that the report is exempt from mandatory disclosure and that the respondents did not violate general statute blah, 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 when they denied the complainant's request for a copy of the report. That's what you're saying on
Yeah,
page
there
2.
is a specific provision in the Freedom of Information Act that says, to the extent that an entity claims attorney-client privilege, it's exempt from disclosure. So the FOI is making allusion to that. I have the Freedom of Information Act here. I can show you the section if you give me that. I can show you the actual text. As a matter of fact, it's highlighted.
Well, knowing this, I make a motion that the commission withhold the release of the investigative report based on this precedent setting case.
Okay,
So the complainant will not see any of the investigators.
No, what his motion is the complaint-related documents and investigative report by Attorney Garrett Brown will not be given to the public because of his motion to claim client-attorney privilege.
Of the status.
The client-attorney confidentiality that's stated here.
Right, it's stated there, but what
It's
you're
in the
doing
book.
is you're going under that section of the
Right.
FOI,
Right. Well,
if
that-
that's your decision.
I mean, it's pretty clear cut to me.
Yeah, it's there.
Thank you for bringing this to my attention.
So if I get the motion clear from you, Commissioner Mastriani, it would be that that there will be a motion that the complaint-related documents and investigative report by Attorney Garrett Brown be withheld and not handed out to the public based on our claim to attorney-client privilege. Is that correct?
Yep, and if you want to reference this general statute, that's also referenced in this case.
Should that be referenced in the?
You can just say in accordance with the FOI decisions and Connecticut general statutes.
Okay, I'll add that in accordance with the Connecticut General Statutes and the decision, the FOI decision. Do I have a second? I second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. The next item is a request was made by Lorraine Bolton for personnel file and any documents relating to hire regarding Chief Narowski. I make a motion to turn over that request to Corporation Fran Tedoshio because that doesn't fall in our purview. We have no authority concerning that matter. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Sustained? Motion passes. Item number 5, adjournment. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn at 12:14.
Second the motion. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.